Right, so we now have Garry Moore, Community Housing, Aotearoa. Welcome, Mr. Extinguished Mayor. That was a brave move. I went to see Yes Prime Minister last night, so I'm just going to say that was a very courageous statement. Councillor Swiggs. It is true that one day I shall retire, but it is too far away for me to even predict at this moment. Right, Garry.
Mayor, I must say that Councillor Swiggs' mathematics are pretty appalling. Madam Mayor and councillors and...
Not from you, Garry, of all people.
And staff. I am a member of the New Zealand Council for Community Housing Aotearoa. Our brief is to work and represent the community housing sector. As a New Zealand Council, we were particularly impressed with the City Council housing policy, and so as an executive, I'm sitting here at the end of the table saying we would like to apply for a grant of $15,000 towards the work of collaboration, which we will meet dollar for dollar. It's really important that the community agencies involved in housing work within a collaborative framework. The current the government sale of 2,500 state houses is dividing the community sector in quite an unpleasant way. It's a cloak and dagger, and consultants tripping all over each other at the moment and playing community groups off against each other. And it is really important, if we are to address the issue of housing, which is a fundamental right in our society, and the housing needs to go from those who are without homes to those who need rental homes to those who wish to purchase their own homes within an affordable market. It's really important that they all work together with central and local government. So our submission is to say to the council, we wish to implement a part of your housing strategy, and we would like some assistance in trying to do that. And I might say that I think it's really important that you point out how you could save some money to pay for your submission. And I thought a left-hand sign at the end of the Barrington Mall saying left turn only, which would cost about $100, would save the $200,000 expenditure promoted by the traffic engineers. So there you go. I've paid for my submission, thank you very much. Yeah. I know.
I don't sign myself.
Yeah,
That's
yes,
right.
Exactly. So anyway, that's and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you very much. Phil first.
I'll ignore the part about the sign in Barrington. Anyway, Garry, look, thank you for coming.
Sounded like a good idea to me.
You're too close to the engineers, Phil.
Don't start me. So look, thanks for what your group are doing to work collaboratively with others, Garry. There was a submission earlier today which actually indicated that for a small proportion of our rate money that we take, that in fact we could build a large number or support a large number of social housing units. And I'm just wondering how that suggestion might work in with the work that your group CHA do.
I think we've got to, this is a bit aside from the submission, but I think as a culture we've actually got to look at new ways of addressing housing. I think that there is a very good model that came out of the Treaty Waitangi, where Tūhoi and the Whanganui iwi both said you can't have kaitiakitanga and ownership, and the state has created a whole new legal status of that land. there's absolutely nothing for central government and local government to actually take land right out of the mix and supply that for affordable housing. It's still in the council's books, assets, and then people could build on that land a whole lot cheaper than they can by having to buy the land at the moment. There are a whole lot of options like that are possible. Joint ventures with central government and local government with your current housing stock. There's a stack of opportunities, but they only flourish in a collaborative framework, and that's actually not happening right now.
But it certainly occurred to me, and it was a question I asked earlier of another submitter, and it was really focused on trying to get more residential development towards New Brighton. But that land on the north side of Pages Road and Bexley, in terms of if the land weren't sold, it's residential red zone,
Right.
If the land weren't sold, so the land is simply made available, but the housing is, that enables people to enter into the property market without, as you say, the cost of the land. Would your group be interested in something like that?
Yeah, well, some of us came up with a suggestion for the South Brighton camping ground, where what we as a society have to address is the issue of measured retreat from the coast. And so I think the red zone gives us a wonderful opportunity to experiment, so that if you look at, say, pole houses built on poles across the land where there is the only intrusion on the land are the poles, and so all of the services are off the ground, and that gives people an opportunity to experiment with lifestyles, with building styles. That would be an amazing opportunity for our society, and that's the sort of thing that the council and the community sector could actually be working on together.
Yeah, I think I'll take Sarah and then Vicky.
Thank you. And it's with housing being such an important issue, and as we've seen, over the last week, and other times, there's so many different groups now trying to make progress in this space. But the figure that you're talking about, 15,000, is quite a different size figure than most of the stuff that we get in the annual plan submissions. And I'm wondering, we've got some staff advice here that potentially the discretionary response fund, strengthening communities, might be the best place for that request. Have you applied for those through the process?
No, we haven't, because we thought it was important to come along here and address the whole council and say, hey, this is an issue we're in together. Where it comes from, we don't mind.
Because that one's open at the moment.
Yeah, so where it comes from, we don't mind. But it's really important that this is step one in actually us saying, hey, we're really attracted to your housing strategy. Yeah. Let's do a policy, let's do something about it together.
Yeah, okay. Vicky's question is asked and answered in that. So, Pauline?
Thank you. Just on your idea about pole houses in the red zone, perhaps, and it's a good idea. I'm sure we could accommodate a lot of infrastructure above ground, but how about the challenge of the roading infrastructure? That could actually, that you can't really... Cars
wouldn't go near it. I mean, a lot of the roading's there already still. But if houses are built on it, then part of the no impact on the land is your car doesn't go there either.
Right, okay.
And so I've visited communities like this in Asia, where they've got 50 families in a row in housing, and they're off the land and they're on poles. And we've got, as a society, we've got to address the fact that the coast is going to actually eat up the coast of the sea rather is going to eat up the coast of our country. Mm-hmm. And we need to actually start thinking about that. And what the Mayor's question is about the experiment of using that red zone land as an opportunity to do it properly.
So we would have to make sure that our public transport infrastructure was made available to them. Also, are you familiar with that whānau project up north where they had several families got together and purpose-built a house to accommodate, I think, 3 or 4 families together?
Pacific Island.
And so they all shared the costs and the mortgage
Yes.
payments, which actually came out far cheaper than them paying rent. So that's quite a good model, isn't it?
Yeah, the trust I work for, we're about to build 3 units in Ottawa Road in Wainoni, and the units will be around about 300,000 each. And that's using a piece of land that was had one house on it, and it's an old quarter-acre section. So those are the sort of experiments we actually have to do.
Yeah.
And we're putting into housing families who never thought they'd own their own homes. And those are the sort of things we've all got to do together.
That's great. All right, you've got 16 seconds.
Okay. How do you get around the deposit situation?
Deposit.
Deposit, yeah, that people have to come up with, the lump sum. How do you get around that?
Well, that's, can I say that I think the current government policy on housing is not very comprehensive, to put it politely, and I think that the election campaign I'm involved nationally in talking to all the political parties, and I suspect there'll be some significant changes in housing as a result of the election process. And things like deposits will be the sort of things. And that's what I'm talking about, the land. If the people don't need to find the land, they've often got lots of money in their KiwiSaver, but that would be enough if all they had to do was build the building.
It's
Just 10,000 for a new home and 20 for an existing one.
Those are the grants.
10%, yeah, sorry. Yeah, but that's apart from the grants, was my understanding, that you have to still have a lump sum of money.
Look, our society hasn't had a sensible discussion on housing. It needs to. And that's really the role of an organisation like Community Housing Aotearoa, to actually be the advocate for those that are sitting on the sideline watching at the moment. I'm happy to continue the debate, but I think the Mayor's got her finger on the button.
I have got my finger on the button.
Thank you.
I was about to press the ejector.
I know.
So,
I had a similar finger, madam.
thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now used for a different